Today we're going to do a little spark plug action on the Murano there. Check it out. Alright, we got a 5/8 spark plug wrench here, some anti-Cs, some NGKs. I've been told that the NGKs are the ones that work in the Murano the best, the iridium plugs there. And we've got a new manifold gasket for the intake, so away we go. We're going to start with the three easy ones. They're the front ones here, so just behind the radiator. We got 1, 2, 3, and these are very similar to like a Ford coil on plug. Same technology, little connector here. We're going to disconnect that and pull these off. 1, 2. Of course, this one's slightly different. 3. Now with a 10mm wrench, we come in here and just loosen these bolts. Alright, now you just pull this guy straight out and take a look at the boot. Make sure it's all in good order, and this one looks very clean. Away we go down into here. This is a 5/8 inch spark plug wrench, and we're just going to turn this guy out. And there's our old plug. Kind of dirty looking. Looks like it's got some miles on it, but yeah, the electrode's a little bit worn there for sure. So, and these are fairly warm. So there we go. We'll put that in the bucket. And I'm kind of doing these one at a time. So got some anti-Cs going on here. And we always start these guys by hand. And there is a crush washer on here. Let's grab one so you can see it. This is a crush washer. I hope I'm in focus here. Let me see if I can help with that for a second. There we go. There's a crush washer on here. You can see it's kind of bubbled up. When you get to the bottom, you can feel a little bit of resistance. If you twist just a little bit more, it'll crush that down and seal, so you'll know what's going on. Right there, I'm getting the resistance a little bit more. There we go, and now it's snug. We're not going for a tight fit. We're going for snug on these. I'm going to go ahead and put this coil right back into the same hole. I'll leave the bolt out for now because I'll do them all three at the same time. That way we can check our work as we go. Alright, now that we've got them all tightened, we just pop these guys back on. 1, 2, 2. There we go, click, and 3. And that does it for the easy ones. Just a side note here, you can find diagrams like this out there on the internet. This one's from nissanmurano.org. And it gives you all of the tightening specs for all of the bolts on this intake manifold. It also gives you this exploded diagram, which is very helpful. The first thing we're going to do is start to cheat this thing out of here. And there's a handful of components that all kind of come together here. But I think we can take off our hose clamp here and our hose clamp here and get a bulk of this piece out of our way, and that'll just make things easier to work back here. Some of the instructions do have you taking off this entire cowl, so all the wiper assembly in the cowl. We're going to attempt to do this without doing that. Save you a little bit of time, probably save you a good solid hour if I had to guess. There are a handful of little things that are going to get in our way as we go. One is this piece up here. So a lot of these little fasteners are going to be 10mm bolts. So we'll just pop them loose and take these out of our way. That little connector there, and it also has a little tab thing here we'll take off. There we go. Now we're loose there. I think we might be better off down here. There we go. I think this part's probably a little cheaper than that part if you were to break it. Electrical connector here. There we go. And his corresponding tab down here. Looks like we got one more hose down here to get rid of. We'll remove the vacuum canister here. This is a 12 millimeter. Get it out of our way. We could probably also disconnect the lines just so they don't hang us up. So we're going to disconnect that one there. And this is the one we need to remove here. There we go. Disconnect our electrical connector. There we go. Get this guy out of here and stuff that in the can. We're going to concentrate on these guys. These are our intake bolts. Again, 12 millimeter. Another 10 millimeter bolt here. These side guys, there's two of them. This should be free and clear in theory, but we've got a bracket in the back that we have to take off. Now here's the part where you're going to be really happy you watched my video, because I'm going to save you about an hour here. And what I'm talking about is that whole cowl removal. And I tried to come in from outside here, this front of the engine. Back here, you can see a couple little bolts kind of poking through right there and there. I'm going to put my hand behind here. And right back, can you see my fingertips right through there, right there? I've got a socket wrench on one of the bolts, and then the other bolt is where you see the threads coming through there. If you can get a wrench back there that's just long enough, yep, you can take these bolts out without removing that cowl. So that's what I'm doing here. It's a 12 millimeter bolt as well. So I'm going to see if I can sneak the first one out. There's the first one. There we go. Yep, on the back light there. So there's the first one. There's another one right next to it. We're going to see if we can sneak that out. I'm sorry I can't put this on camera. I can't find anywhere for the camera to sit to show this. I'm going to do my best to keep you guys in focus here, but first and foremost I have open intake here, so I put down the paper towels. This is the back side of our intake, and this little hole right here, right there, was where this bracket goes for the electrical connector. So this guy can unsnap or not unsnap. I unsnapped it to give me enough room to work, but basically a little 10 millimeter bolt there that you got to take off. Then that guy back there goes into, where'd he go? Into this one right here, that little boss, it's a 12 millimeter, and you basically have to hug this thing. So I just couldn't get a camera in there, but it's like a little water line or something like that, and you'll be able to see, you know, this bolt here. That's not the one. You want the one next to it there that hooks into the back. This guy here is to the PVC, which is right back here. And there you go. Let's see if we can see back there a little better now. You might as well just replace that while you got all this apart. It's a $10 part, so we're going to replace that while we're in here. But then those two little holes back there are the bracket I reached around on the driver's side. Whoopsie. And so, yeah, you can get all of this out and make all of your coils and spark plugs accessible without taking the cowl off. So what I'm going to get after here is the plugs on the back side there. We'll get those changed out, and then we'll get the PVC going. Okay, first one going in, little anti-seize on the threads again. Started by hand, always, always, always. I'll tighten all those up at the end. Little PVC back here. I think this is a 24 mil socket here. This is one of those little pieces that, you know, may not need to change, but you'll be happy that you did when 20,000 miles down the road you're looking at taking this whole thing back apart again. This is a kit from Felpro to do this job, and it has two gaskets here for the disassembly if you take these two pieces apart, which I've found you haven't had to, and then I believe this one is for this end piece here, but I could be wrong. I think I am wrong. I think it's for our unit down there. So since we didn't disassemble those, we will not need these two. We'll put them handily here in our little coffee can, but we will use this one. Pull the guy out for just a minute. Take the old gasket off. And keeping it in the same orientation, we'll make sure that we have this thing lined up correctly, and that is the correct orientation there. So that slides in, that slides over. There we go, that looks good. And I am going to have to put some of the bolts in before I put this assembly back together. So I'm going to cover this up for now. Little tech tip here for reassembly. This little electrical piece that is slid onto here has a tab, and you can push it in and get this piece off. It's going to be like 1,000 times easier to put this bracket on, and I'm guessing you could do this during removal. I couldn't get my hands in there or a tool in there, but you know, removal seems to be okay. It's the reassembly where you can't swing your tools in there because you got nothing solid to get to, and I wish I had more light back here so I could see, but we'll get it taken care of. There she goes. Now for arguably the most difficult bolt that'll be in our set here. I'm going to move this out of the way. I know I'll knock it over. I'm looking at this little guy back here, and I've kind of threaded it through, and we're going to work this guy back just far enough to make contact, and try and see it into the hole. It's there. It just ain't easy, you know. Oh yeah, got her started. Now I need to get my 12 millimeter. Oh yeah, getting stuck. Ow. Alright. She's on there good and tight. I got the PCV on. I got the electrical connector back on. I got our other pressure line or whatever that was. I think it might have been a water line. I can't remember. I got all that stuff back on in the back. So now it's time to set this guy in place. We're going to make sure our gasket is lined up and good, and it appears to be. So we're going to very carefully push this back into place. We have the 2 bolts on the back of our bracket here that are next. This is going to be another exercise in reading Braille. Let's see. First one went right in the hole. That was sweet. That never ever freaking happens. The second one here is going to go right in the hole. That is awesome. So the torque spec on these is 13 to 15 foot-pounds, and I don't have the ability to get a torque wrench in here, so we're going to do this one by feel. Ordinarily I don't like to do that, but this is just a bracket. It's not a critical torque item, I guess I'd call it. So we're going to do it this way and drop our wrench into the back of the vehicle. Next we'll install this little guy here. And that's not our wrench. Come on. Yeah. We're back to our... Put that back in the thing. We're back to our 10 mil on this guy. Just kind of snug him up. Then install our vacuum canister here. Alright, we're going to hook this line back up, slide our clip back down. That guy's back intact. We've got our connector here. Put him back on. This guy here. Go. Click that guy in. And if I remember right, he had a little clip down here that needs to go in. There we go. One as well goes into there. Alrighty. I think we're fairly buttoned up on that side. So let's put this guy back on. Our last little task here is this guy here, so we'll plug in the power connector. Then I believe these guys actually route underneath here. And we'll bring this guy over the top of that guy, hook him on. Then this little jewel here clips into that guy, and that clips onto this other little hose down here. Haha, maybe. There we go, clipped on and in, and we'll kind of give it the once over, make sure we don't have any loose connectors, any little clips that have popped out. All the vacuum lines are on nice and tight. Everything looks good. Give this guy a little pull, he looks good. That looks good. Connectors are all on. I got one last one down here. I'm glad I checked that. Oh, wouldn't you know it? That's gonna be a toughie, but that's okay. There it is. She's on. We're looking good. Another once over here, just making sure everything's good and tight. I don't see any loose connectors. I like what I see. Okay, I'm going to call that solid. Last little nugget here. The dress-up kit. Well, there we go. Nissan Murano, spark plugs changed. Let's see, 2.5 hours total time. Don't let your meat loaf.